Imagine one day you're doing your job just like any other day, working as a pediatric nurse, and all of a sudden you're called in for a routine vaccine for a child that's being very uncooperative, and he hits you in the head. He hits you in the head so hard that you put a dent in the plaster wall behind you, and then you bounce back into his head. That was the last day I worked as a pediatric nurse, and that was 10/11/2016. I suffered what is known as a concussion or traumatic brain injury. This changed my life in a way that I never anticipated or expected. I became literally a shell of the human I was. Was no longer that bubbly, fun pediatric nurse that enjoyed everybody, but I became so depressed, so despondent. I was put on pharmaceutical after pharmaceutical, and I literally could no longer function because of the side effects of the pharmaceuticals. I then was told there's nothing wrong with me because the scans didn't show that. I went from being a credible medical professional to now the patient. Changing sides of that table absolutely sucked. And I can tell you without a doubt that I was suicidal. My husband gets a call from my psychologist and says, "Are you aware that Nikki's suicidal?" And he said, "No, what are you talking about? She's got a plan and we need to talk. And I want you at the next session." Together, I had to write a contract that I would not kill myself. We ended up going to Las Vegas. We went to Las Vegas because in my past, I was a dealer. I loved being a casino gamer and had fun at the slots. And again, I was this bubbly human that was just so fun. And he booked this trip in desperation. We went on that trip. I spent 3 days in a corner, huddled in a ball. And then all of a sudden, I said, I'm done. I'm just done. I'm a burden to my family. I'm a burden to everyone. I can't do it. I can't honor that contract. I dragged the table over to the balcony edge of the Cosmopolitan Hotel on the Las Vegas Strip. And just as I'm about to jump, a billboard advertising, "Get your medical marijuana card in Nevada today," came by. It came by a second time. And it was almost like the universe was saying, "You need to try this." And I laughed at it because I'm part of the whole war on drugs. I was the DARE graduate with honors. I didn't believe cannabis was medicine. I was a nurse. If you would have told me your child was taking cannabis for seizures, I would have called Child Protective Services and you would no longer have your child. That's how strongly I felt about it. The plant gave me hope that day because for the first time, I got my card, I went to a dispensary, and then I ended up using cannabis. I used gummies the first night and I was able to sleep for the first time in months. I was able to come out of that hotel room after I smoked that first joint. Friends, cannabis is medicine. I don't use it to get high, I use it to get well. My name is Nikki Lawley. I'm from Buffalo, New York, and this is my story. Cannabis has been stigmatized and demonized for decades. And it's sort of like anything in politics and media, how things get twisted. I've never been the conspiracy theorist or, you told me pharma was buying the medical system. I wasn't a buyer into that. I really didn't have any idea. I do now. I completely understand why the war on drugs happened. I don't understand the mentality behind it other than the results of it. The war on drugs harmed so many people, so many families, and it literally destroyed a perfectly amazing plant medicine that could change the world. And it changed my world. Maybe I can't change the world for everyone, but I sure can change it perhaps for one person today. If they hear my story and it gives them a tiny bit of hope, then I've done my job. Just yesterday, I got a call from a woman who brought me back to where I was that day in Las Vegas. She called me hysterically crying. She had found me online when she Googled cannabis and concussions. And she said, "You're the only one that I possibly have found that seems to relate to what I'm saying." And she called me just sobbing because she was so defeated. She had tried so many things and so many therapies and couldn't get doctors to listen to her. She was being gaslit left and right, just like I was. I was gaslit to the point of it was put in my medical chart that I was a drug seeker. I'm not a drug seeker, friends. I'm a drug unseeker. I didn't want to take the pills. I didn't want to do the procedures and the constant influx of Botox and chemicals in my body. I just wanted to feel better. And no one could understand how this 40-something-year-old woman could possibly still have symptoms of a concussion, of a blow to the head. I'm not a football player, but I was tackled like one. I found hope in the plant that day, and then I returned to New York State, where cannabis and chronic pain were not considered an approved condition, although we had a medical program in New York State. So I found cannabis in Canada. I became a medical cannabis refugee in Canada. Canada is where my safe spot was, and it's where I found relief, and I learned all about the plant. I learned that there's so many great components of the plant that you literally can treat so many different conditions. And this is not taught about in nursing school. This is not taught about in medical school. No one knows the way the patients do. At the end of the day, patients are the experts because we're the ones living with the condition. We're the ones, just because you have the schooling and the education doesn't mean that you are the only expert. So many physicians don't listen to patients. So many nurses don't listen to patients. I was kind of different. I really tried to have empathy. But if nothing else, this brain injury has taught me empathy. It's taught me that I, just by being me, can change minds, hearts, and lives because I've lived this. I've lived this. I know my story. When Dr. Bridget asked me to be part of the Courage in Cannabis, I was like, absolutely. Because why? Because our stories need to be told. Real world evidence is so much more important than a rat running through a maze in clinical trials. Real world evidence talks to other patients about what symptoms they're suffering from. And you can dial in your medicine by literally smelling your medicine. I'm a true believer in terpenes. Terpenes are what gives the plant its smell, its flavor, and its medicinal effects. I've learned so much about terpenes, and I literally shop by terpenes. It's not just about THC and CBD. It's about the whole plant and how it works together for the greater good. I don't have all the answers, friends, but I'm doing the very best I can with what I have right now. And I encourage you to do your own research. I encourage you to read these stories and understand the power of the plant. The plant is power. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for being part of this journey with me, because together we are so much stronger. Collaboration, friends, over competition. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and please feel free to get your ebook today. I'm so excited it's released for this just select group of people. And let's build the bridge together, and let's remove the stigma. Cannabis connects my dots.